right, super short video. Let's talk about probing for the problem properly. A lot of closers struggle to probe, mainly from what I've seen because they just aren't curious enough. They're not maximizing their curiosity on calls, and that can come from not being fully present with the prospect, actively listening, coming from a place of trying to understand in its entirety, not making any assumptions about them, not attributing anything to them that has not directly come out of their mouth. If you can just get that piece down, probing will be a lot easier for you. Discovery will be a lot easier for you. The way I like to go about it in my mind is I want to know the who, what, where, when, why, how long, everything about the problem, and leave nothing left to assumption. If there's area to assume, I don't know enough. That's what I'm telling myself. That's what I'm thinking when I'm on the call. So as I'm asking questions, when the prospect states answers, when they tell me something, when they make a statement, whatever it is, I'm repeating that statement back in my head and I'm saying, do I fully understand this? Is there any area in this sentence to assume? So if I'm, on a marketing offer and a business owner, I say, hey, what's the biggest challenge you're facing right now? When it comes to your lead flow or whatever it is we're selling, and they're saying, hey, we're just not getting enough leads, right? A lot of people could assume what enough leads mean, but I actually want them to define what that looks like. They might say, hey, the leads aren't qualified. A lot of people would just assume what unqualified means, but there's really tons of branches you can go off. Are they unqualified meaning they don't have the resources, they don't have the money to afford your services? Are they unqualified meaning you're actually not speaking to the right people that you can or should be serving? There's so many different branches you can go from that one statement, but where a lot of closers get stuck is they will just take the unqualified and move on and start asking other questions to gather other pieces of information, probing very wide, getting a lot of shallow information about a lot of different things rather than going deep and understanding on a really deep level what they actually mean when they say unqualified. So you really want to be able to maximize your curiosity. And the way I like to frame it is at the beginning of the call, when I'm asking that challenge question, when I'm asking that problem question, or what brought you to the call question, whatever your starting question is, the prospect is usually, if it's a good enough question, is going to usually give a stated problem. They're going to give a stated problem, and in most cases, that's going to be very, very surface level. Fitness offer, you're going to be like, hey, I'm here because I'm struggling to lose weight. Marketing offer, I'm not getting good enough leads, not getting enough leads, not getting qualified leads. Dating offer, I'm struggling to find a partner. Whatever it is, they're going to give you a very surface level problem, a very surface level statement. And what you need to do is probe deep into that by asking for clarification on different parts of whatever it is they said. It's very rare that someone's going to give you the full thing right off the bat on the first question. And once I've asked for clarification enough times, getting to the bottom of the problem, understanding fully what the problem is, then I can move on to timelines of that problem. When I say timelines of the problem, I mean, depending on the nature of the problem, we'll ask questions about duration. We could ask questions about frequency. So, if the problem is unqualified leads, maybe it's questions on the duration of how often, or how long they've been getting unqualified leads for. Frequency could be like, how often are their leads unqualified, right? When they say, hey, I'm getting unqualified leads, I don't know if they mean every single lead that they get is unqualified, or if it's, 5 out of every 10 leads, 1 out of every 10, how much of them are actually unqualified. So this is where we go into, duration, frequency of the problem. And then from there, once we understand that, we know what the problem is, we know how long the problem's been going on for, we know how often the problem occurs. Now we can go into, consequences or cost or effects of that combination of what the problem is and the frequency of that problem. So for example, I don't want to just know what the cost of the problem is. I want to know what the cost of what the problem is plus it going on for X amount of time. So now I get a much more detailed answer because I'm asking a very pointed question. I'm not just saying, I'm not asking for what the problem is with them getting unqualified leads or what the effects of them getting unqualified leads are, what the consequences of that are. I'm asking what the consequences are of them getting unqualified leads consistently for the last 6 months. So that's a very specific question that's going to draw out a very specific answer, allowing you to have a very detailed understanding of what's actually going on, why they're actually on the call, and what they are looking to get help with, and what's at stake here if they don't get that help soon, if they don't change this soon. And not only are you getting a really good understanding of their situation, they're getting an understanding that you understand their situation. They're therefore building trust on the call. They're like, okay, I can trust this person's solution because they have a very detailed understanding of what I'm actually going through, what is actually happening. And if you watch some of my other videos where I kind of break down the trust equation, you'll know exactly how that slots in with seeing you as an expert on the subject matter. So if we're talking about lead gen, you have to see me as an expert, or my company as an expert on lead gen. You have to then, second piece of the equation is understand that I have a full understanding of your situation. And thirdly, get the inkling, and feel like I have your best interest at heart. If I have those three things, that's what builds massive, massive trust. And this, the ability to get really curious and probe, to get a really good painted picture with no areas of assumption within it, allows the prospect to feel like you do have that painted picture because you actually do. And then the trust, you kind of check off that box in that trust equation. So now when we fast forward all the way to the end of the call, not only will they trust my solution more because I'm pitching with the knowledge, the full knowledge of what we're trying to solve here, but two, I can kind of tailor aspects of my pitch and aspects of what we do and frame it and word it in a way that fits exactly what they need to overcome their problems, because I have such a good understanding of what the problem actually is. So get curious. If there's areas to assume, like if I were to just really simplify it, it's like just super, super curious, and then make sure there's no other areas left for you to assume as it relates to their problem. Then you've probed enough, then you know enough, and you can move on to other sections of the call. That's why it's very difficult to have a line by line script. Yes, you're gonna have points that you want to hit. Yes, for depending on the offer, there's questions that you need to always ask to make sure that the person's a good fit for what you're selling and for what you're offering. But at the same time, there is no ordered, specific line by line set of questions that's going to allow you to always probe as deeply as needed once you ask these specific questions, with no breakage or branch off in between. Because as you ask questions, some people are going to be an open book and just spill their guts out and give you tons of information. You need to ask less questions, and others are going to be a bit more guarded with information, and you're going to have to either repeat questions, asking them in slightly different ways to pull out the information needed, or you're just going to have to ask a lot of questions because they're only giving little tidbits at a time. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully that helps you with your probing if you're struggling with it. I'll see you guys in the next video.